The reviews are in, and we've told you what they are. Well, for this year anyway, but this show is going to be a bit different. Not only is it the end of 2019, it's the end of the 20-teens. So we thought we'd do kind of what everybody else is doing in a best of the decade movie list, but we're also doing the worst. He's Dodd Vandenberg. I'm Rob Steele. He's doing the best. I'm going to explain the worst before we get into this because it just needs to be explained a little bit. We know what the best means.
Yes.
Best. You look at it and go, that's best. That is good. We like it. There's two categories of worst in my head. One of them is the movies you look at the trailer and you wonder, how the hell did this project get greenlit? I mean, things like the Emoji Movie. You look at it and you go, that's going to be crap. That's not on this list. Some movies are supposed to be good, but turn out bad. That's these. That's what's on this list. I mean, you can easily recognize the others, but some of the ones that are on this worst of list, you might have thought of going to see or renting or downloading or whatever. Don't. That's what I'm saying with these. And there were some that I wanted to put on the list that didn't quite make the cut, like Glass, which we thought was good, but it turned out crap. Tom Cruise's Mummy, thought was good, turned out crap. I'm including The Force Awakens on this list.
Ooh.
Because if they had had one line from General Purple Hair, whatever her name was, I didn't bother remembering the character's name because the movie irked me that much. If she at one point turns to Poe and says, here's what the plan is, screen wipe, go to the next scene. We don't have to know what the plan is. We'll figure it out later. That one line could have saved an hour worth of filming, special effects. You could have the movie in theater more often, not have to spend the money on the special effects and the filming. Think of how much money they could have made, but they screwed it up.
They did.
So anyway, that's not on the list. That's my honorable mention. It's my one per list or something. Let's go to the best and worst of the decade, starting with, and these are not exactly in order, but I'm going to number them anyway. Number 10, Ghostbusters 2016. Because, you know, it is not, putting this in big letters, not that they are women playing the Ghostbuster characters. It is that they kind of did it in a lackluster manner with an absolutely horrible script. Yes, the special effects were pretty. When did the ghosts start throwing up on everybody? That's just not necessary. That's not what Ghostbusters was about. Go back and watch the originals, or better yet, wait till next year and we'll see what a reboot / remake / sequel should look like. Because right now, the trailer for next year's movie looks better than anything that came out of this movie, except maybe the statue of Egon.
Agreed. That script was awful. Just terrible. You take funny actresses and you give them nothing to do. It was terrible. So let's go to good movies, in great movies. Leading off my list of the best of the decade is Inception, which was in the first year of the decade, came out in 2010. Amazing science fiction film from Christopher Nolan. Just absolutely great movie. Amazing job filming it. He tries to do practical effects instead of in camera effects instead of just post filming work. Just looks incredible. Kicked off a little mini, actually it's probably kind of still going on, renewal of serious science fiction that's actually thought provoking instead of just stuff blowing up and men being stupid. So Inception is just absolutely a great movie, and I'm not sure if it's his best movie, but it's one of his two best movies. But man, what a terrific movie of the concept is, if you haven't seen it, and my God, why haven't you? They implant false memories in people so they can gather information from them. So people think they're really living in this reality, and it kind of loses track of which reality are they in, which is what the Inception is all about. Great.
That was a fun movie.
Great movie. Absolutely. A fun movie and very thought provoking, but absolutely a blast at the same time.
Exactly. As opposed to number 9, Monster Trucks. Came out in 2016. Holy cow. I think back in the 80s, if this had come out back then, when monster trucks were new and a new big thing, it might have worked. If you missed this movie, good for you. Well done. If you want to know what it's about, though, think Transformers in the movie quality, in that, it might look pretty in places, but overall it's kind of crap. but without the transforming or the plot or the acting or the script or the actors or the budget. And there you go. What else do you need to know other than they seem to have left everything out of this movie?
So, other than that, you liked it?
Oh, other than that, no, even then, I don't like it.
The only thing I know about that movie is that it was ready for release and they sat on it for 2 years.
Apparently to come out in 2016, which is the prevalent year on my list.
Ouch, that hurts. Next movie on my list came out in 2011, although it wasn't until 2012 here because it's a foreign film. I'm talking about The Artist, which it put a lot of people off because it's almost entirely a silent film. It's also in black and white, and it's not American anyway, so yeah. Absolutely great movie. Looks beautiful. It's basically the story of A Star is Born, which has been done a few times, whereas a successful artist, the artist, in this case an actor, he's on the downside of his career. He takes an ingenue under his wing, helps her launch her career, and starts feeling terrible about himself because what happened to me? Look at all the success she's having. So he's being kind of a jerk because that's what A Star is Born is about. And this is such a great love story and has lots of callbacks to Hitchcock's Vertigo, including certain scenes, including Bernard Herrmann's score. And I never did find out if it's actually Bernard Herrmann's score in part of it or if they just kind of adapted it. But that part is just is amazing to me. But this movie it's absolutely a great movie. It's a great romance and it just looks amazing. And if you don't like black and white, get over it. Grow up. I mean, just the way things look, you can focus more on what's happening in the screen because you're not distracted by all the shiny things. Movie is just absolutely beautiful filmed, beautiful story, and extremely well acted. And you don't have to listen because I think there's like 6 words in the whole thing. Great movie.
The black and white thing, that's something I noticed in the past few years, especially with like a 1080p conversion of old movies.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, what was it, The Hound of the Baskervilles with Basil Rathbone way back in 1930 something, early 40 something.
39, I think.
And holy cow, just the amount of detail that you can get out of just a black and white film.
Yeah.
It helped. I think if it was in color, it wouldn't have been as good.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for certain films, it absolutely helps.
Speaking of color, number 8 of the crap film Gods of Egypt, which again came out in 2016. I bring up the color because that was a big thing in this. It's about the gods of Egypt. It takes place in Egypt, which raises the question, who the hell are all these white people? I mean, in Egypt, everyone is pretty much a shade of beige, if not darker. I mean, yes, there are white people there, sure, but once they're there for an hour and a half, you get a tan. All of the people in this movie are Elmer's glue white, which, no, that alone put it on this list. It doesn't matter that the plot is kind of lacking, as are the special effects and the plot and everything about this movie. But that's irksome. They should have known better. It's not like there aren't a number of non-Caucasian actors that could have been in this movie. And I think they had to have gone out of their way to not include any of them, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's even aside from that movie just sucks.
It does. It really does.
It does indeed.
Not as much as the rest of the list, but we'll get to that in a minute.
That's true.
How about a good movie?
Yeah, a movie that didn't suck is a movie stars Bradley Cooper, has a very interesting relationship with a young lady.
Did you just review this in black and white?
It's difficult at times. I did, except this is a different one. And this is not, surprise, it's not A Star is Born. Actually, although that was really close to my list, but this is Silver Linings Playbook from 2012. And this immediately made me think of A Star is Born, as the artist does. But
it just isn't.
It just isn't. See, the thing about this movie is I'm not sure if I would just objectively say this is one of the 10 best films of the decade, but subjectively, absolutely is. It's about 2 more or less young people, because it's Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence, and it's 2012, so it's a few years ago. They're both bipolar. they both have issues, and it's about the difficulties of relationships. It's about the difficulty of relationships, period, let alone dealing with what they're dealing with. Bradley Cooper is a teacher who got fired because he went off the rails and attacked his ex-wife's lover. Probably not the thing to do. And he's been in and out of institutions to help him with this situation. He's living at home with mom and dad. Dad is Robert De Niro, who's great in this, and I have not seen play this character before, so that made it good. And he meets this young lady, played by Jennifer Lawrence, who has her own issues. And they both have some pretty serious, heavy demons to work with. Despite that, this is a romantic comedy with some really heavy, dramatic overtones. It's a great romance. It's extremely funny. Has all the feels in it. The scene, they enter a dance competition because this is going to help her. This is kind of her own like personal therapy. He doesn't know how to dance, but he says, okay, fine, I'll help you. And they enter I can't remember if it's samba or salsa. I apologize. Anyway, they enter one of these ballroom dancing competitions. Well, it's a ballroom dancing competition. And all they want to do is just basically get through the routine. They don't think they're going to win. And so they do this routine, and it's set to a Stevie Wonder song. It is amazing. It's like the best dance routine, one of the best dance routines I've ever seen in my life. It's romantic. It's funny. It just sounds amazing because it's freaking Stevie Wonder. This movie is just so much fun and has so much heart. Like I said, maybe there are technically better films. Nothing wrong with this film. But this is just such a feel-good movie in all the right ways, not the manipulative ways. I mean, it just feels very natural. Cooper is excellent. Jennifer Lawrence is excellent. It's a terrific film. And it's all about finding the silver linings. That's why it's called The Silver Linings Playbook. Great movie. One of my absolute favorites of the decade.
So you mentioned feels good,
yes,
feels natural, and
yes,
Jennifer Lawrence. Let me take that and number 7, invert it to a feel bad, supernatural, unnatural, pan-natural Jennifer Lawrence series of movies. And I lumped all together all of the X-Men movies that came out this decade.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you've heard this show before, you've heard me go off on this. And I'm going to do it again because it's the last time I should be able to until Marvel gets a hold of it and does it properly.
Yep.
Please do it properly. From the perspective of people like me who collected the X-Men books, the movies are basically fan fiction written by someone who might have looked at a cover once. It's just not good. Let me give you my favorite example of this. Days of Future Past, which was an incredible storyline in the books. It dealt with, in the book, Kitty Pryde's mind had to be sent back in time. Why Kitty Pryde? Because she was brand new to the X-Men and did not have any kind of psionic training, so they could do that. She was sent back in time by Rachel Summers, an excruciatingly powerful telepath, and Frank, daughter of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, Phoenix and Cyclops of the X-Men, and Franklin Richards, son of Reed and Sue of the Fantastic Four, who has the ability to manipulate reality. That's how you send someone back through time. It makes sense in the book. Then you take the movie. Wolverine, who should not be sent back in time ever, is sent back in time by Kitty Pryde. How? Well, she can walk through walls. Therefore, she has the ability to travel through time. What the hell? Where does that... No, that is we've got to cram this plot point in here. It's 3 a.m. How do we get it in? Someone get me some Astroglide and a crowbar. We've got to fit this plot point in here somewhere. No, you do not do that. Now, I think everyone has heard their entire lives that when there's a book, the book is better than the movie. This proves it, period. So there. Todd, give me something happy to think about because these movies piss me off.
I had to mute myself several times because I was laughing so hard about...
Oh, go right ahead.
Fan fiction, and they saw the cover of a book. And yes,
that's what it looked like.
And I agree.
I can make that in a movie. Let me turn the camera. Hugh Jackman, would you jump at the camera, please? Click. We've made the movie. No, you haven't made the movie. Sorry, I'll shut up.
So, going from the inane antics of the X-Men, I'm going to go to a little bit serious tone. I'm going to talk about Whiplash. Came out in 2014. One of two movies from that year that made my list. Whiplash, the first film from Damien Chazelle, who also did La La Land, which I liked, but Whiplash is by far the better movie. By far the better movie. Whiplash is about a young musician. He's a drummer. He goes to an excellent school for music. This is like college level. And he manages to come under the tutelage of the finest teacher at the school, played by J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons won an Oscar for this role, by the way, and he damn sure deserved it. I don't know if you played the band in high school, Rob, but
for a semester until I found out my teacher was crap.
Okay, now was your teacher was your teacher kind of crazy?
My teacher was eventually fired from the school and relocated to Switzerland.
Okay, that's interesting. Everyone I have talked to, with the exception of one person, somehow they actually had a good band director. Every person I have talked to who was ever in band in high school
hated it.
No, they didn't hate it.
Oh, okay.
But everyone said that the band director was kind of nuts.
Oh, yeah, that too.
They would go off the rails at some point. In my circumstance, in 11th grade, the band director was angry at a drummer because he missed the beat, which ties into Whiplash. He grabbed a cymbal, not a drumstick, a cymbal, and threw it at the kid. And I mean, he threw it at the kid. He didn't throw it in his general direction to scare him. He threw it at him. If it had hit him, he could have freaking killed him.
We saw Ragnarok again the other day, and I think the Hulk did that to Thor at one point in the movie.
Yeah, he did. And the Hulk would have been a great band director because he's got the temperament for it. Not anymore because he's Professor Hulk. But J.K. Simmons is this impetuous tyrant of a musician who demands the absolute best of his students. This is how he gets it because that's how he operates. So it was this battle of wills between Miles Teller, who is tremendous in this, ignored his work in the Fantastic whatever movie because that was awful, not his fault. So it's this battle of wills between him and Simmons. This movie is just absolutely a great character study, great plot because a lot's going on in this flick. As it turns out, well, when you see it, if you haven't seen it yet, by the end of the film, see where your sympathies lie. See if they lie with the abusive tyrant band director or with the young kid who only wants to be a great musician. To me, it was a pretty interesting character development there. Just see how you feel about it. But the music is freaking incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's a jazz ensemble, and man, terrific movie, terrific music, great, absolutely great performances. Highly recommend. As the blurb says, exhilarating, extraordinary film, astounding and electrifying. Yes, Whiplash is all of those things.
You mentioned a musician.
I did.
Mine has a musician at number 6 of the worst movies. And it's the only time I've actually liked this musician doing her acting thing. And I think I originally said I liked this movie. I have since gone back and watched it, and I've changed my mind.
To the point where it's now on your worst
it's
of the decade?
It's now on my worst of the decade.
Wow.
Because the first time I was distracted by how pretty it was. And Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets is pretty hollow. And there's too many plot holes. No, these are not holes. These are maws, canyons that just the fate of the universe rests in the hands of these two agents. Well, send them some help. It's the universe. What else can be more important than saving everything? Well, Bob's working a jewelry case. He can't be bothered, right? No, you send Bob to help them.
Maybe that's the movie Scorsese watched.
It could be. And something else that bugged me was I could not figure out the relationship between the two agents. They might love each other. They might be brother and sister. Han and Luke? No. They might be sleeping together anyway, despite hating each other. What the hell? Figure out your dynamic and let us know so we know how we're supposed to feel about the two of you.
That's problematic, yeah.
I don't mind. Pick one and go with it. They didn't do that. But The movie's pretty. It's very, very pretty. You can watch it all day, and it's a lovely screensaver. Bite me. It's a beautiful screensaver. It's a crap movie.
Well, will you do the rest of the show in that voice, Rob? That would be
Which
so
one do you
fun.
want me to use? This one?
Oh my God, don't. I'm trying to be serious, damn it. Although I really shouldn't be for this next movie.
No, not for that one.
Kind of serious,
No, you haven't.
but also pretty funny. It's Birdman. Also came out in 2014. Birdman.
Oh, wait a minute. Valerian and 1,000 Planets came out in 2014, but was filmed in 2016. So I'm still on that. 2016 was the crappiest year for movies ever.
That's
anyway,
sad.
Yes.
Yeah, I put this challenge to my daughter and son last night and said, "Give me your list." And she said, "What, by tomorrow?" I said, "No, because you're not going to do it." And all she said was, "Wow, 2013 was a suck year for movies." It's like, so I haven't even looked, but I didn't have any from 2013 on my list, but I do have again Birdman. So Birdman, about an actor, Michael Keaton playing the actor, typecast, who's again kind of a washed-up actor, harkening back to The Artist. He played, interestingly enough, a superhero in a series of superhero films. In this case, he played Birdman. Birdman, Batman, close enough. So he's trying to get respect as an artist by doing a play on Broadway. He's having a lot of problems with it. He's having professional problems. He's having personal problems. He has a bad relationship with his daughter. He's just in a mess. The play's a mess. Everything is a mess. So he's just trying to deal with all this. On top of that, the character that he played in the movies talks to him, gives him advice, tells him to man up. So it sounds like it's a one-man show. It isn't, because the supporting cast is great. Emma Stone is in it. Edward Norton is in it. I can't think of his name. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in it. Great cast. So even though it's not a one-man show, it's still Michael Keaton's show, and he is absolutely terrific. Looks great. Really interesting plot, following just how things go with the play and how things go with his personal life, which is really the big important thing. Also trying to figure out, is Birdman real? And does he really have weird powers? Because maybe he does. The movie kind of leaves that up to you. There's a great scene where he is just in his white skivvies, because that's what he's wearing, because he's a goofball, because he's Michael Keaton. And he gets locked. Yeah, he gets locked out of his dressing room. He gets locked out. He goes out the stage door by mistake, can't get back in. So he's walking on the streets of New York just in a pair of tidy whities, which they actually filmed on the streets of New York with actual people just walking by, looking at Michael Keaton walking down the street, trying to get back into the damn theater in his underwear. And it's a great scene, because Keaton looks really not happy to be there. But yeah, Birdman is just a great performance by Keaton. Again, reminds people that he's a hell of an actor. He's much more than Bosom Buddies or whatever the hell he was on. Not Bosom Buddies. That was
Tom Hanks.
That was Tom Hanks. The other thing that he was in, I'm thinking of Night Shift, which is really funny. But yeah, he's much more than a comic actor. He's terrific in this movie. Beetlegeist, which, God, what a great movie. Anyway, not of this decade though, so it didn't make the list. But if it was, it would have been. But Birdman, terrific, absolutely terrific movie. Really makes you think. Really makes you wonder, which is great.
Number 5 in the crap movies. And they did it again. A lot of these, you're going to notice, are based on books, and they kind of forgot to put a lot of the book in A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah.
I just before I watched this movie, I made sure to reread the book, because I remember loving it as a kid. And then I watched the movie, and the main character had 2 other brothers that were somehow gone. Oops, we forgot about them. And just, I mean, some of the visuals were wrong in this movie. I don't know that we need a 40-story Oprah. Because I read the book. I don't recall her being that big. I do not recall the Reese Witherspoon turning into a Pokemon, which she did. A big green leafy Pokemon. That's what she looked like. I don't know. There was just a lot left out, a lot added in that wasn't there to begin with, and it's just not a likable movie. To me, there was no rewatch value to it at all. There's rereading value for the book. The book was great. The movie, not so much. I was very disappointed with that.
I'm going to throw in my take on this, because I never read the book. And I did watch the movie. And this movie sucks. So for me, it has nothing to do with the fact that it didn't follow the book, which obviously it didn't, but it's just not a good movie. The characterizations are bad. The acting is bad. Everybody looks like they were just showed up to get a paycheck. Yep. We had talked about this when it first came out. Lee was actually on the show with us. Hi, Lee. And he was talking about the fact that it almost seemed like they put in special effects just to have special effects and had no idea how to do them. The director, Ava DuVernay, is a terrific, amazing, excellent director, completely out of her element on this. It's like Disney thought, oh my God, she's an awesome director. Let's get her to do this. It's like, no.
It's something akin of telling Wayne Gretzky to paint a Picasso. He's a great hockey player. He's not known for his painting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this movie sucks, period. Yeah. You know, this was Disney's dream of, their next big franchise. And unfortunately, they forgot that you need to make a movie. Much like the Mummy thing that they did with Tom Cruise is like, let's launch a franchise. It's like, first, let's make a movie that's good. And then maybe there'll be a reason to follow it up. It's like, yeah, that was a bad movie. So let's get back to the good stuff.
Good stuff.
I am going to jump up to 2015. And I really, really like the movie. It's a really fun movie. But in a way, I respect it more for the fact that it did something I didn't think was possible. The Big Short. The Big Short somehow managed to make the savings and loan banking crisis of 2008 wildly entertaining. and completely understandable. Now, how the hell you manage that, you would have to talk to Adam McKay. He's the director. It follows different people. It follows Christian Bale, who is one of the people who first saw a problem with the housing market because of all these subprime loans that banks and savings loans had put out, lending money to people that they knew damn well weren't going to be able to pay it back. They didn't care because they turned around and sold those loans to other companies who didn't care because they turned around and sold the loans to other companies, and they were churning money. They were making a profit every time they sold the loans. Problem is, eventually, all those loans stopped with companies that there was no one else to sell to because finally everyone realized, that's a bad risk. I'm not taking it. When the people defaulted, everything crashed. So The Big Short takes this story, which is an awful story because it really hurt the world's economy, and a lot of people, like as in millions of freaking people, lost their life savings because it also crashed the stock market because everything came tumbling down, and makes it incredibly entertaining and explains really difficult details extremely well by just breaking the fourth wall and having actors just break down things with charts on the screen so you understand what's going on. And then they jump back into the movie. I've never seen anything like that. And it all managed to be wildly entertaining. Like I said, Christian Bale is excellent. Steve Carell is in it. Not Ryan Philippe, the other Ryan
Reynolds, Seacrest.
Yeah, all of those guys. It's one of the other ones. Yeah, Oprah. So anyway, great cast, and I'll think of it eventually. And then I apologize for not remembering your name. You were great in La La Land, though. It's just Anthony Bourdain is in it, explaining some of the details, just as himself, just explaining things so you know what the hell they're talking about. Margot Robbie is in it. Same thing. Margot Robbie in a bathtub, drinking champagne, explaining subprime. I mean, it's amazingly well done. It's wildly entertaining. Brad Pitt also is in it. And it's just the concept, the fact that someone would have the balls to say, you know what, it's going to make a cool movie and people will really laugh at it in parts and they'll be just captivated by this. It's like, I'm going to get a movie on this crisis, this economic crisis. It's like, and it works. Somehow it works. So The Big Short, partly just for the fact that he tried it, but mostly for the fact that he pulled it off. An amazingly funny, sad at the same time, but wildly entertaining movie, The Big Short. Highly recommended, unlike the next movie.
Yeah, number 4, excuse me, on my list. Not something I'm going to recommend, not highly entertaining, which is tragic because I love Will Smith. I think Will Smith is awesome. He's excellent, but I am surprised at the number of movies he's in that are just horrible. iRobot. No, horrible movie. Wild Wild West. Horrible movie. The one on this list, number 4, came out in 2013, After Earth.
Oh, wow.
It was supposed to be a spectacular movie. very few people left in the human race. Two of them are Will Smith and his son, whose name I'm not even going to bother to remember because he's retired from acting anyway. Just saying.
He never acted. He was in movies, but he never acted.
Well, okay. We'll do it that way. Love you, Will. Yeah, these are the last people left. And my attitude toward these characters is, you know what? I don't care if they're the last ones left. Just kill them. Because there was nothing likable about them at all to me. I mean, you got to make me go, okay, I like this guy. Let's see how he survives. And that just never happens. No. I start rooting for the animals on the planet, and no, that's not the way you want to make a movie. Still love Will Smith. I think I know what it might be for this movie. He didn't have the mustache. He's had the mustache since he was 12, but he did not have it in this movie. That's what's wrong with it. There we go. It sucked all the acting ability and plot and cast out of everything in the movie. That the mustache was gone. Well, blame it on the mustache.
Yeah, I totally agree on this. A lot of problems with this movie, and I agree. Wild Wild West was when Big Willie's opening weekend started to die because that movie sucked. Jaden Smith is the non-acting son. Part of the problem with this movie is that he's the star instead of Will Smith. That's a huge mistake. Another part is just the poster. Look at the poster. That doesn't even look like Will Smith. I don't know what the hell they did to him.
He doesn't.
Will Smith doesn't look like Will Smith.
He has to have the mustache. He doesn't look like Will Smith without the mustache.
Another part, and a big part of the problem with this movie, M. Night Shyamalan directed, wrote it.
Not the first time actually the first time he's on my list, not the last.
Yeah, because, you almost could make up the whole list with his bad movies because, man, he was on a bad run for a long time. Anyway, back to Happy Thoughts.
Happy good movies.
And I am not joking when I say this is one of my top 10 movies of the decade, because you'll probably laugh when you hear this. A lot of people listening will laugh. But Shin Godzilla.
Really?
One of my top 10 movies of the decade. And no, it's not the American version. It's not either of the American versions, although I like both of those movies. They are very entertaining. But this is the best Godzilla movie since the very first one, back way back in 1954. Godzilla originally, the original film is basically an analogy, a morality play on the dangers of atomic power. Godzilla is powered by atomic energy. Japan had just, remember, 9 years before that movie came out, Japan got nuked twice. So kind of a sensitive subject there for them.
A bit.
So what Godzilla was really all about. And so Shin Godzilla kind of returns to that theme, taking it very seriously, even though it does have a big giant monster, although it's not a guy in a suit this time. Effects are terrific. It's also, and this is what makes it a great film for me, it's also an indictment of bureaucracy and how government is completely incapable at times of reacting to a crisis. So it's about power and pollution and people not taking care of the environment to that aspect. It's also about how the government can't respond and do a damn thing to help people when they need people. This was not too long after the Fukushima power plant accident in Japan, which released lots of radioactivity and caused lots of problems for things that were living in the ocean at the time. And eventually probably will be for people as well. So it's, in a lot of ways, even though it's a Godzilla movie, it's a really serious film. And man, did they ever let the government of Japan have it. Because apparently their bureaucracy is worse than ours from some of the reviews I read. But the monster aspect is terrific. This is a terrifying freaking monster. This is the best version of Godzilla because you see him mutate as it goes along, getting larger and larger. And as the government confidently predicts, oh, he won't do this. And of course, then he does it because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. There are some good people who are trying to do their best, and they do their best. And of course, they can't stop Godzilla because it's freaking Godzilla. Yeah. They do manage to work out kind of a stalemate with Godzilla. Not that they negotiate, but they do manage to find something that will help, which happily saves them from getting Tokyo nuked because that's what the U.S. was going to do, being helpful like we can be. We were going to blow it up in an effort to kill Godzilla. But the creature design is terrific. He absolutely looks enormous the way they shot the perspective. His weapons are terrifying. The atomic breath is more of like a focused beam this time and is just the monster aspects, great, absolutely great monster movie, but it's also a really cool political statement. And not a whole lot of movies like that out there. So really entertaining. So if you have kids who like big monster movies, yay! But there's a lot going on in this movie, much more than I expected. So Shin Godzilla. And yes, it is available in English language if you want, but typically most of the outlets, you might be able to find one where it actually has both at the same time, which I have to mention something to you later. But anyway, Shin Godzilla, great movie. Came out in 2016. You got to watch it.
You mentioned bombing.
Yes.
In that one. And number 3 on the worst list. This was a bomb, all right. It's the 2013, I'm going to say adaptation. And that word is wrong. Because they completely forgot to include pretty much any of the original material in The Lone Ranger. It was just a horrible movie where the original series back in 1950 something, 40 something, could have been in the 30s. I don't remember. A masked man living in the West End. He's Batman
basically
with a gun. And it wasn't Robin. It was Tonto, an actual Native American, as opposed to Johnny Depp in Australian Aborigine makeup.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, Raggy, something's wrong. If you haven't seen it, don't. It's there. I could not find any redeeming qualities in this movie. It was horrible.
I've tried twice to watch the movie and turned it off both times.
As well you should.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No, it isn't. Another one of those huge franchises that they forgot to make a good movie.
Oops.
Yeah.
I'm surprised M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong is in it. Isn't in it. Didn't direct it. Something.
One of those things.
Yeah.
We're going to jump back to good movies.
Good movie.
So I'm moving up to 2017. I have 2 from this year as well.
Ooh.
The first is Lady Bird. Lady Bird, coming of age comedy drama kind of thing, which there have been a lot of good ones lately. I almost went with another one that came out the same year, which is sadly overlooked because it's an excellent movie, Edge of 17. But I think this one is just a tiny bit better. So I'm going with Lady Bird. One thing, fantastic actress, Saoirse Ronan, just amazingly good actress. Everything she's in is just, I can't say everything she's in is phenomenal, but she's phenomenal in everything she's in. And actually, I haven't seen a bad movie that she's been in anyway, largely just because of her presence, because she is just terrific. So, teenage daughter, she hates her mom, she hates her life, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've seen the kind of story before, but never done as well as, just terrific. Laurie Metcalf plays the mom, Laurie Metcalf, who was on TV for like 10,000 years in Roseanne. And man, she is just terrific. This is another film directed by an actress who is now a full-fledged director, Greta Gerwig. Man, this movie is so, so good because it absolutely nails that age, nails those conversations, nails all the frustrations of being 17. Not that I know how it is to be a 17-year-old girl, but I know how it is to be a 17-year-old boy. Different, but same in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So apt, so true. I mean, that's the thing. This movie is absolutely true. And it's hilarious where it's supposed to be hilarious. It's much more of a comedy than a drama. It definitely has its serious points, but man, this movie is, all of the movies I would hope are a must see, but if you haven't seen this movie, it's like, oh my God. They could have made this movie for like $1.80 because it doesn't need any special effects. It looks terrific. I'm not saying it looks cheap, but this movie, it's all about the story, and it's a terrific story, and it's tremendously well acted. Lady Bird, 2 words when you are looking it up.
See, as opposed to mine, which used a lot of special effects and had a great story, and M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong screwed it up. So number 2 in the horrible movies of the decade, going back to 2010, The Last Airbender, which if you have seen, I was actually thrown off by how good the series was. 2 of my daughters said, Dad, you have to sit down and watch this. And I did. And it was good. It surprised me. So when we watched the movie, which we were all expecting to be good, and it turned out like this, where they could not even pronounce the main character's name correctly. I mean, it's not like it was written in a book and you go, not sure if it's pronounced Ang or Ong. It came from a TV series. You heard them pronounce it for 3 seasons. You could at least get the name right. And you didn't. And I know you're trying to cram a whole season worth of stuff into an hour and a half, 2-hour movie. I know that's not going to be an easy thing. But one of the things you cannot cut out is the entirety of the plot. That kind of has to stay in the movie. The acting really could have been better. I'm not going to blame the actors on this. I'm going to blame the script. I'm going to blame Shyamalan, Ding Dong Khan, Nightham, Shaka Khan, whatever his name is this week. I'll get your name right when you start making a good movie again.
Ow. Okay? Burn.
Yes. I have a lighter. It is currently lit and under a picture of him.
I totally agree. I saw this at the theater, unfortunately.
Oh.
I paid money to go see this. Here's the setup. Also, like A Wrinkle in Time, didn't know the source material. I knew of it, but hadn't read any of it, hadn't watched any of the shows. Friend at work, not my current work, but because this is an old movie, older, was a big fan of the shows, really wanted to see it, didn't want to go by herself, said, come on. I was like, okay, go. So I went. And the only entertaining thing about this was her constant bitching and grumbling and angry outbursts as they got everything apparently wrong about this movie.
You should see me at an X-Men movie. Same concept, only anyway.
One of the things that stood out to me and a lot of the criticism that was leveled at this movie, other than the fact that it was terrible, was the fact that all the darker skinned people were the bad guys. Just kind of weird since Shyamalan has Indian heritage, not as a Native American, but is in the subcontinent.
India.
You would think he would be kind of sensitive to portrayals of people with darker skin being bad. So that was kind of weird. And the casting was just all over the place. So it's not like, well, at least he cast people. It's like, no, I don't think it was intentional, but it was stupid. That's for sure.
I'll agree.
But I suffered through that damn thing. And again, not knowing the source material, it was terrible.
And yet none of those dark-skinned people could have shown up for Gods of Egypt.
Isn't that weird? Anyway, not that he had anything to do with that, but that's how things go. So I am on to my number 2 film of the decade.
Good movie. And
staying in 2017, and I am going with Baby Driver.
Good movie.
There have been tons of car chase movies over the decades. There have been tons of heist movies over the decades. A lot of them excellent. To me, this is the best. Not just the best car chase heist movie of the decade, the best one ever. Edgar Wright, the guy who does those funny little movies like Shaun of the Dead. He's the director, co-writer. This movie is absolutely freaking great. Great cast. Has the courage to cast like Jamie Foxx in a supporting role. That it's not a cameo, but it's not like a huge role either. John Hamm, who for the life of me, can't figure out how this guy's like the biggest movie star in the world, but he's terrific. Don Draper, for those who are unaware of the name. He's in it. John Barenthal, The Punisher. Woo!
Kevin Spacey. Terrific cast.
But the thing that really stood out to me, other than that the action is terrific, is a really cool story. Basically, this young kid is a getaway driver, and he doesn't really get along well with his coworkers because they're criminals and thieves and bad people, and he's not. He just wants to make enough money, do one last job so he can take off with his girlfriend, and people don't like that. So problems ensue. The music, the soundtrack is practically another character in this. And God, the music is just phenomenal in this movie. Absolutely. It's not that often that I will comment about the music, but music is really important to the story, and it's amazing, and the movie looks great, and it's just great. It's a great story. It's a sweet story in some ways. Terrific action sequences. Just an amazing movie of its type, of any type, but especially for this kind of a movie. So that's
I told you to get Masks of Mike Myers. Anyway.
Yes.
If you don't know what that means, watch the movie and you will laugh because that was funny.
Yep.
As opposed to the number 1 movie on my list.
Yes.
Not only do I consider it the worst movie of the decade, it may very well be the worst movie of all time.
Ouch.
And we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Todd knows where I'm going now. in the Christmas movies you should avoid at all costs.
Yes.
And yes, I am referring to 2017's Saving Christmas with Kirk Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Because, my God, is there anything I think the only thing they might have gotten right in this movie is that they spelled saving and Christmas correctly.
They did get that right. You're right.
I think everything else in this, it's just wrong on every level. I mean, the only thing they didn't do was rape baby Jesus. It was just...
Oh my God. Well, metaphorically, they did. So.
Well, yeah, I guess metaphorically. It's that bad a movie.
Yeah, it is.
And if you think, oh, I'm going to run out and see it now, don't. It's not in a theater. You can stream it if you absolutely have to. Try not to be sober. That way you'll live through it. It's abysmal. There are no redeeming qualities to it.
No.
And if you want a bigger review, go back for a couple weeks and listen to the other show. We set the movie on fire.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it because it just literally, it really makes me mad just thinking about this movie.
It does.
It's the epitome of the preachy, moralistic know-it-all who tells you how to live your life, and you just want to punch him in the throat because, no, you're stupid and shut up. So, yeah.
And he's telling you wrong.
So I'm going to get on to my last...
How about the best movie?
Yeah, I'm going to go talk about the last best movie of the decade. And this is going to sound kind of weird if you listened to last week's show when I talked about the best movies of the year. Because I am talking about a movie that came out this year in 2019, but it is not my best movie of the year. Yet, it's on my top 10 list for the decade. So let me explain the reason that I chose Avengers Endgame for my last movie, my last of the best of the decade. And again, if you didn't catch the show last week, shame on you. But I chose
it's
Avengers
still there.
Endgame.
You can go back and listen.
You can go back and listen, but don't right now because you got to listen to me now. Yes. You don't really have to because I'm not Kirk Cameron. But I chose A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood as the best movie of 2019 and Avengers Endgame as the second best movie. But I'm putting Endgame ahead because Endgame isn't really a standalone film. It's the summation of how many years have they been doing Marvel movies? It's what, the 22nd film in the Marvel universe?
Something like 22nd or 23rd.
22nd or 23rd. I think it's 23rd. So it ties in the stories of all of these characters that Marty Scorsese doesn't care about, which is okay. Teach your own. Go watch Kirk Cameron make a movie. And it does it brilliantly because there are dozens of plot lines to tie together in addition to the main storyline. There are dozens of characters who, not dozens that started their own movie, but dozens who were at least co-stars in their own franchises who all need their screen time because their stories are interesting, because their fans want to hear that. And somehow they made it all work. It provides a resolution to, I would say, the grimmest blockbuster movie of all time, because Infinity War didn't exactly have a happy ending. Spoiler alert. If it wasn't for the fact that everybody knew they were going to make another Black Panther movie, another Spider-Man movie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, those characters are gone because they got killed and they weren't coming back. Except, of course, they did because Marvel and superhero movies. But
they did it in a way that made sense. So
it made perfect sense in the context of the universe. And yet some characters do die in this movie and they're not coming back. A few of the characters who died in Infinity War didn't come back. And it makes sense in the context of the film. So they stuck to the rules of the universe they created. Absolutely stuck to those rules. And that's important that you're consistent. Once you establish a universe, this is the way things work. You can't just fly off and do things stupidly and go off the rails like they constantly do in the damn X-Men movies, which thankfully they don't get a chance to ruin those anymore. Thanks, Fox, for selling out to Disney. Yay. in a good way. And again, like we talked about in last week's show, there are so many huge moments in this film that just absolutely gripping because you've watched these characters literally for years. And this is the end of their story for so many of their characters. In some cases, in a sad way. In some cases, in a great way. And just the behind-the-scenes stuff. The fact that it's not the last line, but Thanos, the big bad, he's about to end half the universe again, and he doesn't because one of the heroes got the drop on him, and he says a line that brings it all back around to the second film in the entire Marvel universe It was the end line in that film. And the reason that line is there isn't because the writers are brilliant and they thought, let's make this full circle. No, it's because a film editor was watching them film the scene and everyone said, it's not really right. And he said, why didn't they say this? Talk about a collaborative effort. Yeah. Everybody had a key role in making this a great, great movie. I mean, it absolutely pays off in every way you could possibly want. So, even though A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is a great movie, and yeah, I think it was the best movie last year. Avengers Endgame still is a more important movie for the decade in the fact that it brings a close to all these stories that literally millions and millions of people have been following. A huge emotional payoff in scene after scene after scene. It's a great film. It's not a great superhero movie. It's not just a roller coaster ride. It's not like going to the amusement park. It is a great film, which would be nice if some people in the film community would actually take the time to watch it, and they would probably figure that out.
Are you talking about Marty Scorsese again?
Yeah.
Screw him. Avengers Endgame was awesome.
It was indeed.
I'm going to go watch that Thor scene again with the hammer and Captain America and everything, because it was awesome.
It is indeed.
So basically, what we're going to leave you with at the end of this decade are two lists. Mine, avoid them at all costs.
Yes.
Todd, on the other hand, has given you a list of some excellent movies, and if you haven't seen them, now is an excellent time to get out and go see a movie. We'll see you next decade.
Captain, we're losing power in the warp engines.
I think we should be leaving now.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And on that unusually harmonious bombshell, it is time to end.
I am very disappointed!
Man, we have a weird job.
It's shameful, but, it's a living.
And like that, he's gone.
Holy crimson skies of